Your very first celeb crush.
Leo DiCaprio, for sure.
He is still mine, by the way. He's always my number one. Hey friends, it's your girl Emily Curl, and today we're hanging out with country music singer and songwriter Hailey Whitters. Hailey, it's so good to see you.
Hey, good to see ya.
The last time was full-blown the start of quarantine, so it's been a little bit. So much has happened for you. New album, you're going on tour. I mean, I feel like, how has life been for you?
It's been amazing. I mean, gosh, so much has happened since 2020, last time we spoke. Yeah, we're going on the road with Jon Pardi this summer. I've got a new album coming out, and or I guess it already came out. I'm living in the past. It came out a month ago.
I was like, is there another one? I was like, oh my God,
yes,
really turning it
I've got
on.
more albums. No, yeah, Raised has been out for a month now. So excited to have that out into the world and to get out there and tour behind it this summer. It's been pretty awesome.
Well, we're excited to have you here today. So today we're gonna play a little game called 15 First. So I have 15 scenarios that are gonna talk about like your first time you experienced something. Are you ready to dive right in?
I'm ready, let's do it.
Question 1, when was the first time, Hailey, you realized you could sing?
Gosh, I don't know the first time I realized I could sing. I remember singing from a very early age and loving to sing. Probably I take that back. The first memory I have of like someone telling me I could sing was a Thanksgiving supper. We were all sitting around the table and talking about how there was not much talent in my family, and my mom said, well, Hailey can sing, and she made me sing in front of everyone, and it was kind of the first time I think I'd ever really done something like that.
By the way, I love that you said supper. I feel like that reminds me of my parents. They call it supper.
Yeah, totally.
Question 2, what about the first concert you attended?
The first concert I attended, I think it was Leanne Rimes, actually. She played the county fair, and I was really young, and I remember like it was when Blue was out, so I think she was like 14 or something at that point. But I remember being at the county fair and seeing her come out, and it was like, I'm from a very small town, so to me it was like just the big star and had come through town and was performing. And I remember that night like just kind of having this feeling of, I want to do something like that. I want to leave this town someday and get to do something like that.
I love that. What about, this is going back to like younger Hailey, question 3, your very first celeb crush?
Leo DiCaprio, for sure.
He is still mine, by the way. He's always my number one.
I know. It must be because we still remember that, seeing him in Titanic from being so young. It's so funny.
So funny. Okay, question 4, your first job.
My first job, my very first job was probably babysitting. I'm the oldest of 6, so I was like the babysitter in the family. All my cousins, extended family, friends, everyone, I was like the babysitter. My first like paying job was definitely probably waiting tables, being a waitress. I've kind of been a lifetime waitress forever. It's been my day job back when I was shopping deals and everything like that. But yeah.
Don't even get me started on 10 Year Town. That is my favorite song of yours. I mention it every time I talk to you, but I love that sentiment. It brings me back to that. Okay, and speaking of this, because those are some of my favorite lyrics of yours, question 5, what was the first lyric or lyrics that you wrote that you were like, okay, this is really good. I really like this.
Gosh, man, that's hard. I feel like there's so many terrible songs I wrote when I was just first starting out. I'm sure there were like moments where I felt like I struck gold, but I think probably like the first time I'd had like a few years of like really professional songwriting under my belt, and I wrote something that I was like, man, I think that is something. It might have been Low All Afternoon, which was my very first cut. I wrote that song by myself in 2015 probably, and it went on. Tina McBride recorded it for her record, and that might have been the first time. I get so self-conscious. I never know if anything of mine is good, so usually a sign of kind of validation is when someone else has told me this is good, or someone like Martina who went on.
I was going to say, the country queen, Martina, cut it. That's sick.
Yeah, I know. I think that was probably, I remember writing that song and playing it for my boyfriend at the time, and he kind of lit up and he was like, this is really good. I was like, is it? I don't know. It's so hard. We're in such an industry like that where, everyone's opinions are bouncing around, and it's hard to know sometimes. But usually if I play it for other people and they think it's good, I tend to think it might have something to it.
All right, you mentioned your boyfriend who is now your fiance, which brings us to question 6. When was the first time you met your fiance?
We were in college together. We had a class and it was like the first day of school. And, you know, you go around the room and you like say what your name is and where you're from. I said, I'm Hailey, I'm from Iowa. And I hear this voice behind me go, you're from Iowa? I'm from Iowa. And I turned around and it was like this really funny moment where I was kind of like, man, I wish he was a little bit cuter. And he was kind of like, she just seems like a dumb blonde, you know? But so I guess it kind of wasn't love at first sight. Took us a little while to figure out we really liked each other, but history class and Iowa brought us together.
And you guys have a lot of history now. How soon after that class did you guys start dating?
Gosh, I think it was still like 3 years or so. We had both graduated and then we had some mutual friends and started running in some similar circles. And it wasn't until at least a year after we graduated that we actually started, you know, hanging out.
Such a good story. I love that. Okay, so let's go back to your music career for a second. So question number 7, when was the first time that you ever had doubts that maybe this wasn't for you?
I think year 10, everyone always says Nashville's a 10-year town. And I think, you know, I was so just tunnel vision, keep your head down, roll your sleeves up, work. But when I kind of hit that year 10, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, everyone always says year 10. I'm not really where I want to be yet. I'm waiting tables, trying to pay my bills, trying to catch a break still. And I was looking back at a lot of people back home, a lot of my friends back home. And it was like, they have 2 babies on baby 3, buying the house, buying the boat, you know, all these like milestones to show. And it was just really hitting me for the first time. I was like, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I was starting to just really reconsider moving back home, trying to find a different career path, although I have no idea what I would possibly do.
And it's so crazy to see you now. And you think about a lot of people that are pursuing their dreams or doing that. If you could tell those people right now, maybe one thing that's like the light at the end of the tunnel, a piece of advice, what would you say to them?
You know, I would say this town in particular will find any reason it can to tell you no and to send you home. And I think it's very important to find what you love, what it is you love about this business, and hold on to that and protect that and surround yourself with people who believe in you and believe in those, you know, those same things, and just really hang on to that and keep going and be yourself, and eventually it's going to click and it's all going to happen.
Question 8, the first time you got your first real artist paycheck.
First real artist paycheck, probably when I signed my record deal with Big Loud Songs and Daughters in 2020. That was like the first time that I'd gotten paid to really be making records, you know, as Hailey Whitters.
What about the first time, question 9, you slid into a celebrity's DMs?
I think it was like when I told Phoebe Bridgers she should change her handle back to fake nudes.
Phoebe Bridgers is so iconic.
I usually just kind of like stay out of people's DMs, but I mean, I felt like that one was kind of important, you know?
She needed to know. She needed to know. Question 10, first time you met one of your heroes.
Man, Alan Jackson. I was like so nervous to meet him. He's just this tall giant, and he was really sweet. He was really kind, and he took an interest into me as a writer, and, you know, made a point to like talk about my writing, and shook hands with my dad. And my dad, like, you know, he's a big tough guy. He doesn't really get nervous, but I could tell he was so nervous. And that just meant a lot to me to get to see someone I grew up, still adore to this day, mad respect for Alan Jackson, getting to like meet him and getting, you know, him taking the time to meet my dad. That was really special.
And talk about like an iconic songwriter. Do you have a favorite Alan Jackson song? I feel like my family, Daddy Let Me Drive was like our song growing up.
So good. I mean, there's so many. I remember when, like, I remember the first time I ever heard that song. I think it just kind of stopped me cold. But Gone Country is always a jam.
Oh, that's a good throwback.
You know?
Country. Yeah. Question 11, first time you splurged on a big purchase.
The first time I splurged on a big purchase. Well, I bought a Grammy dress this year, and that was freaking expensive, but it was the Grammys. You kind of have to do it. Your first Grammys, you have to buy something nice, you know?
Oh, you had to. I mean, and that goes to my next one. Question 12, first time you learned you were nominated for a Grammy.
I think it was the fall of last year. I was back home in Iowa, and I was in a coffee shop, and Brandy Clark called me, and I was like, I could tell instantly by the tone of her voice. I was like, this is either going to be really bad news and I'm going to be screaming tears of sadness, or this is good news, although I don't know what about, and I'm going to be screaming tears of joy. So I just was like, Brandy, I got to step outside real quick. I'm in a very public place. And sure enough, it was great news. And I did scream. So
I mean, I can imagine just a rush of emotions. Were you crying? I mean, what do you do in that moment? I mean, Grammy is huge.
A Beautiful Noise. I was nominated for a song I'd written with Brandy, and then I was written for a song that I'd written with Brandy and a bunch of other collaborators and co-writers, and a song that Brandy Carlisle and Alicia Keys had performed. That one was a total shock. I had no idea that was even up for consideration. So I was just, I mean, a Grammy is something any artist, musician dreams of someday getting to even remotely being, have their name attached to an award like that. So it was a huge honor to get that phone call.
Okay, and at the Grammys, was there anyone you were super excited to meet? Anyone you were starstruck by?
It was really cool to see Billie Eilish. I'm a little country bumpkin. I don't really venture too much out of like country music, but getting to see her perform, I mean, I had chills. She's so great, and getting to see that in the room and feel the energy in the room, it was so cool. And
just such a powerful presence too. Like you can just feel when she walks in, when Billie's there.
Yeah. It was crazy.
All right, question 13. You're getting ready to go on tour, so tell us, when was the first time you did something embarrassing or funny on stage? My mom, this is so stage mom, but when I was first starting to like play out in town or whatnot, my mom would like sew my costumes, and I was playing the county fair, and she had this idea that she talked me into of throwing confetti out into like the audience when I was done, and I did it, and I look back in hindsight and I'm mortified. That is so like, birthday party vibes.
Oh my God, toddlers and tiaras or something. Like, it's so creepy, but
I bet your mom loved it. She was probably proud.
She was so proud, but that will not be happening again.
So you mean you're not going to do that when you're joining the Ain't Always the Cowboy tour with Jon Pardi and Lainey Wilson?
I probably will not do that.
Well, tell me about the first time, question 14, you got the call that you'd be going on tour with them.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I mean, Jon and I have such a history. I've known him for a long time. He invited me to go out and open some shows for him, just, 2 shows in the Southeast in like 2016. I did it and I felt like a total rock star. And then it was like a year or 2 later, I was waiting tables and he walked into the restaurant that I was working at, and I had to, I like wanted to just run out the back door. I was just so mortified, and I had to go like wait on him, and he was so sweet about it. He was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm working, I got my apron on." He was like, "Oh, you want to go get me another beer then?" And so I just like leave it to Jon to put me right to work. But I went and just like waited on him and whatnot. So getting to like have him see me in all these different phases of my career and still believe in me enough to bring me out on this tour that he's doing, I mean, I'm just such a fan of him as an artist, but as a person, and it's kind of making me tear up. But just like his belief in me has been so important and very, very cool to have.
All right, and this is a perfect segue to our very last question, question 15. First time you had your I made it moment.
Man, there's been like so many moments, your
very first one, you're like, oh shoot, this is happening.
I think the first one was when I got to play the Grand Ole Opry, because that was the goal for, young Hailey to get to move to Nashville and to get to play the Grand Ole Opry. That was maybe the only goal. So to be able to cross that one off the list and really get there, I think it was just this crazy full circle moment where I just, it's cool to be able to go back and tell her you did it, Hailey,
we're so excited for you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Before we let you go, tell our audience, where can they find you on socials and where can they find you this summer on tour?
Socials at Hailey Whitters. I'm on all the things, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And then this summer, July through October, we'll be out on the Ain't Always the Cowboy tour with Jon Pardi and Lainey Wilson. And we will be all over the place. So go check out my website, HaileyWhitters.com. It's all there.
Yes, Hailey, we can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much again for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for watching our 15 First with Hailey Whitters. Make sure you listen to all of her music on iHeartCountry, and we'll see you next time.